Be permitted to. Visitors are permitted to enter the exhibit between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. You are not permitted to park in the reserved spots. Students are permitted to use calculators during the exam. Employees are permitted to dress casually on Fridays. Guests are not permitted to bring outside food into the venue. You are permitted to access the online archives with your membership. Children under 12 are permitted to travel for free on public transportation. Spectators are not permitted to use flash photography during the performance. Residents are permitted to use the clubhouse facilities. You are permitted to bring one personal item on board the aircraft. Tourists are not permitted to touch the artworks in the museum. Customers are permitted to return products within 30 days for a full refund. Visitors are permitted to take guided tours of the historical site. Employees are not permitted to use company vehicles for personal use. Patients are permitted to have one visitor at a time in the hospital. Members are permitted to vote in the annual election. You are not permitted to use the swimming pool after hours. Students are permitted to study in the library during finals week. Participants are permitted to submit their entries online. You are permitted to update your application information until the deadline. Visitors are not permitted to feed the animals at the zoo. Employees are permitted to work remotely up to 2 days a week. Guests are permitted to use the Wi-Fi for free. You are permitted to request a leave of absence for personal reasons. Parents are permitted to attend the school assembly. Be required to. All passengers are required to wear seat belts during takeoff and landing. You are required to submit your application by the deadline. Employees are required to complete annual training. Visitors are required to sign in at the front desk. Students are required to attend at least 90% of classes. Drivers are required to have a valid license. You are required to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Patients are required to provide a medical history before treatment. Members are required to pay dues annually. Travelers are required to have a visa for certain countries. You are required to follow the safety instructions. Tenants are required to give a 30-day notice before moving out. Employees are required to adhere to the dress code. Participants are required to register for the event in advance. You are required to renew your membership each year. Builders are required to comply with local construction codes. Students are required to submit their essays by next Friday. You are required to pass a security check at the airport. Employees are required to report any workplace accidents immediately. Residents are required to separate recyclables from trash. You are required to vacate the premises by the lease end date. Clients are required to make a deposit before work begins. Students are required to take standardized tests. You are required to update your software regularly. Employees are required to maintain confidentiality. Be going to. I am going to start a new diet next week. We are going to travel to Italy this summer. She is going to apply for the scholarship. They are going to launch the new product line in April. He is going to propose at the dinner tonight. I am going to buy a house as soon as I save enough money. We are going to adopt a pet from the shelter. She is going to make a career change next year. They are going to renovate their home this fall. He is going to retire at the end of the year. I am going to learn how to play the guitar. We are going to plant a vegetable garden. She is going to write a book about her experiences. They are going to host a charity event next month. He is going to run a marathon next spring. I am going to take a photography class. We are going to cut down on our plastic use. She is going to start her own business. They are going to hike the Appalachian Trail. He is going to take cooking lessons. I am going to organize my home office. We are going to reduce our carbon footprint. She is going to study abroad in Spain. They are going to invest in renewable energy. He is going to learn sign language. Have got to. I've got to finish this report by tomorrow. You've got to see the new exhibit at the museum. It's fantastic. He's got to decide whether he's accepting the job offer. She's got to take her car in for a service soon. We've got to get up early tomorrow for the flight. They've got to solve the issue before it escalates. I've got to make an appointment with the dentist. You've got to try the cheesecake at this bakery, it's divine. He's got to apologize for what he said. She's got to study harder if she wants to pass her exams. We've got to clean the house before our guests arrive. They've got to invest more in their marketing strategy. I've got to renew my passport before my trip. You've got to check out that new coffee shop downtown. He's got to lose weight for health reasons. She's got to find a better balance between work and life. We've got to book our holiday tickets soon, or prices will skyrocket. They've got to update their software to avoid security breaches. I've got to call my mom back. She called earlier. You've got to be more careful with your words. He's got to give his team more support. She's got to decide what she's wearing to the interview. We've got to prepare a better pitch for the next meeting. They've got to get their dog trained. It's getting out of hand. I've got to start saving money for the future. Used to. I used to go jogging every morning. She used to be a professional dancer. We used to have family dinners every Sunday. He used to smoke but quit 5 years ago. They used to live in New York before moving here. You used to be so shy around strangers. I used to drink coffee, but now I prefer tea. She used to write poetry in her free time. We used to go to the beach every summer. He used to play guitar in a band. They used to stay up late watching movies. You used to love going to amusement parks. I used to read a lot more before smartphones became a thing. She used to take a different route to work to avoid traffic. We used to make our own costumes for Halloween. He used to have a big collection of vinyl records. They used to argue a lot, but now they get along fine. You used to be able to see the stars clearly before the city expanded. I used to believe in Santa Claus. She used to be afraid of dogs until she adopted one. We used to send postcards when traveling. He used to be a competitive chess player. They used to grow their own vegetables in the backyard. You used to bake with your grandmother on weekends. I used to look forward to the school holidays. Be likely to. She is likely to win the award this year. It is likely to rain tomorrow, according to the weather forecast. They are likely to arrive late because of the traffic. This strategy is likely to increase our sales. You are likely to find cheaper prices online. He is likely to run for mayor in the next election. The project is likely to be completed ahead of schedule. We are likely to see a rise in temperature over the next few days. The proposal is likely to be approved by the board. You're likely to need a reservation at that restaurant on weekends. She's likely to be the next team leader. It's likely to be busy at the mall today. They're likely to announce the new product line soon. This method is likely to produce better results. You're likely to encounter some resistance to the change. He's likely to accept the job offer. The event is likely to attract a large audience. We're likely to face challenges with this approach. The movie is likely to break box office records. You're likely to feel sore after this workout. She's likely to travel abroad for her studies. It's likely to be a close match. They're likely to update the software next month. This plan is likely to benefit everyone involved. You're likely to experience some delays during the construction. Be certain to. She is certain to impress the judges with her performance. You are certain to find a job with your qualifications. It is certain to be a memorable evening. He is certain to refuse the offer, given his principles. We are certain to face some opposition to the plan. They are certain to win the championship this year. The movie is certain to become a classic. You are certain to need a coat in that cold weather. The proposal is certain to pass with unanimous support. It is certain to be a topic of discussion at the meeting. She is certain to get the promotion based on her achievements. The project is certain to be a success. He is certain to have an explanation for his actions. You are certain to enjoy the new exhibit at the museum. We are certain to encounter traffic on the way to the city. They are certain to appreciate your help. The book is certain to sell out quickly. It is certain to be a challenge, but we're ready. She is certain to have her reasons for declining the invitation. The technology is certain to change the industry. You are certain to regret it if you don't try. They are certain to remember this day forever. He is certain to set a new record if he continues at this pace. We are certain to need additional resources to complete the project. The event is certain to be a turning point for our organization. Be sure to lock the door when you leave. You should be sure to check the expiration date before buying. He'll be sure to call as soon as he arrives. We were sure to reserve a table in advance. They'll be sure to enjoy the surprise you've planned. Be sure to dress warmly for the hike. You must be sure to follow the instructions carefully. She'll be sure to win if she keeps practicing. Be sure to save your work regularly. They were sure to have checked the weather forecast before leaving. You'll be sure to find a better deal if you look online. He's sure to have an excuse for being late again. Be sure to take plenty of water on your trip. We're sure to make it on time if we leave now. They're sure to ask about your experience, so be prepared. Be sure to charge your phone before we go. You're sure to enjoy the concert, it's going to be amazing. She's sure to understand once you explain the situation. Be sure to apply sunscreen before you go outside. They're sure to finish the project by the deadline. You're sure to notice a difference if you use this ingredient. He's sure to be thrilled with the gift. Be sure to confirm your appointment the day before. Be meant to. This book is meant to help beginners learn the basics. The meeting is meant to start at 9 but often runs late. This tool is meant to make your job easier. The program is meant to support underprivileged students. This song is meant to raise awareness about social issues. The scholarship is meant to cover all tuition costs. The law is meant to protect consumers from fraud. This exercise is meant to strengthen your core muscles. The fund is meant to support local charities. This documentary is meant to highlight environmental challenges. The diet is meant to improve heart health. This app is meant to simplify your daily planning. The seminar is meant to provide insight into the industry. The policy is meant to ensure workplace safety. This feature is meant to enhance user experience. The study is meant to investigate the long-term effects. This route is meant to reduce travel time. The warning is meant to prevent accidents. This campaign is meant to encourage more people to vote. The advice is meant to help you make informed decisions. This technique is meant to improve efficiency. The reform is meant to address systemic issues. This initiative is meant to promote sustainability. The bonus is meant to reward exceptional performance. This tradition is meant to bring the community together. Can afford to. Now that I have a better job, I can afford to buy a new car. We can't afford to take any risks with this project. She can afford to travel the world with her savings. They can afford to donate more to charity this year. You can afford to be a bit choosier with job offers now. He can afford to upgrade his equipment. We can't afford to ignore the competition. She can afford to take some time off work. They can afford to invest in a second home. You can't afford to miss out on this opportunity. He can afford to pursue his passion now. We can afford to expand our business. She can't afford to lose focus at this stage. They can afford to host a big wedding. You can afford to be generous with your knowledge. He can't afford to compromise on quality. We can afford to be patient with the market. She can afford to buy designer clothes. They can't afford to overlook any details. You can afford to take a bigger risk now. He can afford to retire early. We can't afford to delay the launch any longer. She can afford to indulge in her hobbies. They can afford to provide better benefits to their employees. You can't afford to ignore your health. Can't help but. I can't help but smile every time I see a puppy. She can't help but worry about her kids, even though they're grown up. We can't help but celebrate after such a big win. He can't help but feel a bit nervous on his first day. You can't help but admire her dedication. They can't help but sing along to their favorite song. I can't help but laugh at his jokes, even the bad ones. She can't help but cry at sad movies. We can't help but be excited about the upcoming trip. He can't help but be skeptical of the too good to be true offer. You can't help but feel inspired by the beautiful scenery. They can't help but complain about the weather. I can't help but feel a bit jealous of his success. She can't help but spend hours reading her favorite books. We can't help but feel proud of our team's achievements. He can't help but question the decision. You can't help but get caught up in the excitement. They can't help but reminisce about the good old days. I can't help but wonder what the future holds. She can't help but overanalyze the situation. We can't help but look forward to the weekend. He can't help but be cautious after last time. You can't help but notice the changes around here. They can't help but be influenced by their environment. I can't help but feel grateful for everything I have.